Hello and welcome to the Sports Lounge. I'm Travis Kriens. On today's show, we'll be discussing college football and the NFL. There were a lot of exciting games this weekend, and joining me this week is Drew Amon and Marcus Straxler. Thoughts?
Hello.
Say hello to the people.
Hello, as usual.
As usual.
Here we are talking about college football for probably too long, probably unhealthy amounts, but here we are.
We are here.
Yep.
A lot of exciting games this weekend. There were a couple we're going to cover, but do any stand out for you right away as the best game of the weekend?
Well, even without without sort of the expectations for these two programs for the year, as far as BCS title prospects, the Michigan-Notre Dame game was a terrific highlight for me. Just the way it ended. Denard Robinson is, something of a legend of sorts, shoelace as they call him in Michigan. The way he the way he went about that game in the second half was incredible. For Notre Dame to go down the field so quickly, I'm not sure many other quarterbacks would have been able to do that in that situation, but Denard Robinson did, and that was a huge win for Michigan. You don't want to lose to Notre Dame at home in the first night game in the Big House. So that was riveting, captivating, mesmerizing, incredible the whole way that last quarter.
Yeah, I thought that was that was the game of the day, no question. Denard Robinson took the game over, especially 30 seconds left, drive down the field.
He was like Hitler in Europe in the 30s. He took it over.
He did.
And the early 40s.
And
interesting.
Yeah, definitely interesting.
Yep.
And then, like you said, he's got kind of a history of doing this to Notre Dame. Last year leading him to a win, and the atmosphere in the Big House definitely electric. I kind of got goosebumps watching because it's like that would be awesome. And to get that win, like you said, these are two teams that won't be competing for the national championship, much to the dismay of Lou Holtz and Notre Dame Nation. But they're not a national championship contending team.
No, they're 0-2.
And they're 0-2
They got to worry about getting that first win.
Exactly.
It's like Coughlin with 100,000 less people.
Same thing.
Exactly.
Just throw a small city.
Throw in the West River population, and then you have it.
You got it.
Well, Denard Robinson took that game over. Took it over, as you said. He did it in a very good way.
Those first three quarters,
just to clarify,
those first 2.5 quarters were kind of rough for him. And they stopped him. They were ahead 24-7. Was Notre Dame. Was this a great comeback, a huge collapse for Notre Dame, a little bit of both?
Well, they get luckier than all get out on that fumble, 2-yard fumble into the end zone play. And then, Denard Robinson makes plays. Part of it is Notre Dame quit playing defense. The fact that they had made plays in the first 3 quarters that they just didn't make in the fourth quarter, and I think that was exhibited on the final drive, leaving, was it Roundtree wide open?
Yeah.
And he runs all day to get him down there. So you can't have that happen. Definitely an indictment on the Notre Dame defense.
Well, I would say, I said Robinson's sort of a legend of sorts. I wouldn't say he's a legend for his passing.
He did have 338 yards.
I was going to say
on 11 completions.
I was going to say 11 completions, 338.
He did have 3 interceptions.
When you're throwing off 25, 30 yards a pop, that's pretty incriminating for your defense too. But also speaks to his ability to make big plays. So incredible game, really. I don't think there might not be a better one this year. But that had all the makings of a classic for sure.
Was it a good game or a good quarter and a good finish?
Well, I watched it. I watched it from the beginning, and I got to say, I was captivated the entire time. I think it might have been just the whole notion of this enormous venue, night game for the first time, 114,000 people. That was enough to hitch me, and those throwback uniforms were just delightful.
Tactfully done.
Tactfully done. Just delightful. So I know I was hooked. I was hooked from kickoff. Really.
I did not see all of the game, but I saw all the fourth quarter.
You saw what mattered.
I saw bits and pieces of the early part. I'd say it was a great game. Not exactly a banner performance throughout, but I think it definitely captivating. Like Drew said, especially if you're a fan of those two teams, you weren't going to leave. That was a great game.
Did you get the full 5-star treatment?
I don't know. What do you want from me? You want me to
Yeah,
say the
yeah.
classic?
4.5. No, because
it was very good.
It
was very
wasn't because these are two bad teams.
Well, this is the best game I've seen between two crappy teams, bar none.
Sure.
I think.
And
Sure.
that was pointed out on Twitter.
If,
Yeah.
if that's the way you want to label this thing as an outstanding game between two crappy teams, then I think that would be fitting. So,
Agreed.
well put.
Another game that could rival that, Iowa State-Iowa, 3 overtimes. Iowa State wins 44-41. A little bit of a surprising
In that
upset.
11 o'clock time slot, it was a game of the day. But
Yeah.
then you get Georgia, South Carolina in the afternoon, and then Michigan, Notre Dame, and then it gets overshadowed a little bit. But certainly a great game. Steel Jans, right?
Yes.
Is that,
Yep.
I don't know who he is or where he came from, but making plays all over Ames to give them the victory. And after we talked about Iowa State, you and I last week, and oh man, Iowa State barely pulling it out, and I think a lot of people had Iowa pegged for a victory on Saturday, and it didn't happen.
I think Steel Jans is the fighter that Rocky Balboa is going against in Rocky 7.
Makes
Steel
sense. I've heard
I thought he was a UFC guy.
No, that's the premise of the new show.
Exactly.
He's going to the UFC.
Boxing's fading out. It's time to become an Ultimate Fighter. Steel Jans, Rocky Balboa, Rocky 7.
That's right.
That Iowa State game was good. That rivalry is a little understated, mostly because it hasn't been entirely competitive for the past 5-6 years. But Iowa State snuck it out. Maybe Iowa State's not that bad of a team.
Well, hard to say.
I made
hard to say
I
still.
made that Seneca Wallace comment a couple weeks ago, and sure enough, Steel Jans is the man to replace Seneca Wallace.
Yeah, I mean,
10 years later, we finally got a guy.
Yeah, you almost fall to a FCS team. You know, Northern Iowa's the cream of the FCS crop. You know, beating Iowa isn't easy. Kirk Friends is one of the best coaches in college football. So, I mean, you got to think that Iowa was prepared anyway, had a good game plan. Iowa State just did a little bit more. So, 2-0 is 2-0. Maybe Iowa State's, can wrangle up a few more wins and make a bowl.
Look out for that Insight Bowl, 6-6.
Insight.com.
Arizona, looking them in Minnesota.
Straight
It's
Insight.
imminent, you think? You think it's imminent?
I hope those
Straight
two
Insight?
teams don't meet again in the Insight Bowl.
PapaJohns.com.
That's right.
That's right. The Sports Lounge Bowl coming in Boise pretty soon.
Let's have it here in Brookings.
If
Do you think we can get two teams to come to Brookings?
you know my feelings about Boise. I ain't going to
We better tell them now so they have enough time to prepare and get
Yeah.
the accommodations.
Yeah.
We'll wear the blues. Blue field.
Checkered end zones.
Checkered end zones.
Rabbits on the 45 for everybody. Georgia, South Carolina, another game that you mentioned. Very exciting. 45-42 Georgia win, or South Carolina win. Came down to the end there. A game that Mark Richt needed, he didn't get. Is this it? Or
I was wondering, not that I think he should be fired, but if he was going to be fired on the spot, and he wasn't, thankfully for him. Because I don't think he's that bad of a coach, but when you factor in the expectations at Georgia, he's just not getting it done. And I think that's a little unfair, but that's the way it is in the SEC. It's get it done or bust. And 0-2 isn't where they need to be, especially when they're a favorite to win the SEC East.
Well, no, yeah, 0-2 is not what I expected Georgia to be, and I mean their season's just getting started. It doesn't get easier for them here on out. But it'd be stupid to fire Richt in mid-year. Nothing good comes from that, I don't think. Unless he's Tim Brewster. Mark Richt is established. Georgia's had some great teams under his tenure. I don't think it's you can't put all the weight on Mark Richt's shoulders here. I think that would be a stupid move, and I don't think they'll do it. But
if they finish the year 10-2. Regular season 10-2. I mean,
well,
then what do you do?
Clearly, you don't fire them. I think you
Okay.
rattle off 10 wins in the SEC.
Yeah.
What if they don't win the SEC though? They don't even make the championship game.
Which they probably won't.
Then what? I mean, what do you do to Mark Richt if he goes 10-2?
I
He
think
gets you to the Gator Bowl or whatever.
Well, if he does that, he's fine.
Okay.
If he has another 8-4, it sounds like he's out. I personally wouldn't do it, but it sounds like
I
he
wouldn't
will
do it either. I think he's too good of a coach to just let go.
Well,
Because if I'm
Well, look who he's lost to. A top 5 team in Boise and a South Carolina team that won their division last year, probably going to do it again, a borderline top 10 team, and they lost by 3.
he's not losing to the Teachers College of Indiana. I mean, I've got this teacher college thing
TCI.
going. But yeah, I mean, he's lost to 2 good teams, like you said. I don't think it warrants even if he does go 8-4, I don't think that Warren's being fired.
Oh, I don't think 8-4 gets you fired either. I think if you go 5-7,
yeah,
there could be some too much dissension down upon you to go on anymore. But I think Georgia, will bounce back again. Like you said, tough games. Throw up a coin. You win the game, you either lose the game. It's really the matchup are so even that it's not greatly surprising that Georgia's 0-2. I didn't expect it, but 2 weeks in, there's a lot of football left. Georgia could very well sit at the end of the year 9-3, and by all accounts, that's a good season.
In the Pac-12, we saw Utah and USC have a controversial finish. USC's up 17-14. Utah going for the game-tying field goal. It's blocked. USC returns it for a touchdown. They call it back because of the new rule, no celebrations, which I don't think there appeared to be.
Well, other than 45 USC players on the field.
Before he scored?
Before he scored.
And they called it, disagree with the rule. Do we disagree with that new rule, first of all?
In that circumstance,
that's a bit excessive.
When you got everyone running on the field that was probably the right call.
Right.
But the thing that's so shameful about that kind of penalty is when, I think the key example is when Jake Locker got that touchdown. He just threw the ball in the air, and it was, that cost him the game.
And then missed the ensuing extra point.
Yeah, missed the extra point. I think the refs need to be a little bit careful throwing that flag. I think it's to a point where most kids scoring touchdowns aren't trying to be, demonstratively show off. I think that's kind of been, I think it's in their heads that they can't do that. So then if somebody throws a ball in the air and they throw a penalty, I think that's way too quick of a trigger.
Especially when every team has a ball boy standing there ready to hand the ball to the ref anyway, for the extra point or whatnot. And when you factor in that no team is doing the, bowling pin celebration where everybody's knocking them down. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah.
And I think
it's too bad. But
they enforce the rule. Fine. I'm totally okay with that. But then to come back and the Pac-12 commissioner says,
are you okay with that?
You know what? We'll count it. We're going to count that touchdown. 23-14 is the final. And that's not okay with me, because if you have any trust in the officials at all that are on the field, you have to let them do their job. And they enforce the rule that has been established at the beginning of the year by the NCAA, and that's the way it's got to be. You have rules for a reason, and you don't have rules so that Larry Scott can come in and say, nope, we're going to count that touchdown for USC. Because, if you're a degenerate and you like to bet, then you know what?
That affects it.
You are in.
Then that 8.5-point spread becomes extremely, extremely interesting.
Because it's 17-14, they switch it to 23-14, which doesn't affect the outcome, but it goes from it's an 8.5-point spread USC, and good, they win by 9. Instead of 3, they win by 9. Not to say it's fixed, because it never is. They win by 9. They get that half a point. So if you cashed in those 2 hours where it was still considered 17-14, and you got your Utah money, thumbs up.
And I heard that half of the sports books in Las Vegas are taking 17-14. The other half are taking 20.
Because I'm sure people had more money on USC.
So it depends on where you put your money.
And when you got up to the window and said, "Give me my money."
It's funny that, you have to consider this too, like the gambling ramifications. It's gotten so prevalent now that, even on the tickers on the bottom, you got the spread right there.
You got it right there.
-3. It's I don't know what that says for society, but whatever. What would the spread have been if it were USC versus Teachers College Institute of Indiana?
2.5.
Teachers College is a good school.
They run that option, which is tricky for some teams.
What would their team name be, you think?
The Rulers.
The Rulers, yes.
Or in their defense is called the Erasers.
That's very good.
And the mascot is like an eraser holding up a ruler.
It's like a janitor. I don't know. That's good. That's good.
It's good. A quick transition here to Jerry Kill, who had a seizure on the sideline. Bad transition. Something you don't expect to happen, but it has happened to him before.
Oh, man.
Back in 2001 and 2005. Sounds like he's going to be okay. Yeah. And the laughing point of this is Minnesota lost to New Mexico State 28-21 at home. The players, he kind of told the players, this is the situation, this may happen. And it does happen. And at that point, the game was kind of decided. There were, 20 seconds left?
The game was not decided.
Where did they have the ball at?
They had the ball at like the 22-yard line.
Okay.
And it was after a 3rd and 10.
And there was 20 seconds left about?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was watching the game live, Big Ten Network. Of course. Everything's on the Big Ten Network.
Thanks for that plug.
And I was watching the game, and pass goes incomplete, and there's 6 or 7 people around Coach Kill, and then he's convulsing, and it was just a bad deal. And you wonder, I mean, the university hired him with the understanding that his health would be okay. I mean, he's had kidney cancer, and he's just had a rash of health problems. And it's certainly a little nerve-wracking when you see that, especially end of the game, game's on the line, and your coach goes down, and now I mean, obviously his health's more important, but there was a 15-minute delay in the game, and you just kind of wonder about both teams in that situation.
Yeah, that's a situation that you don't prepare for by any means. So when it happens, you don't know how to react. I'm sure it had to have affected the player's psyche. You think it had to have, because just to see your coach go down, and I mean, even with that sort of forewarning that he said that this might happen, and then top it off, they lose a game, they're 0-2. It's a bad situation, and it just gets worse for the Gophers. Really, you can't. Where do you find a silver lining in this game? Really,
they lost the game well before that. Before there were 25 seconds left.
Absolutely. I don't know what is with the Gophers and their inability to basically just stop the pass, stop big plays. I don't know. It's something that's been persistent. It hasn't just been Jerry Kill. That's been in previous.
I've been a fan for 15 years, and they've never been able to stop the pass.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is nothing new. They get these coaches. Ted Roof was a former defensive coordinator, and somehow he ended up at Auburn. And it's like, how did he get a better job after not being able to stop anybody at Minnesota? Everett Withers at North Carolina, he was a defensive coordinator at Minnesota. It's just like, how are people moving up from Minnesota? You didn't stop anybody here.
I'm not sure.
It's usually they stay 1 year and then they're like, oh yeah, Minnesota's not very good. We better get out of here.
Not so much.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very disconcerting.
As it is for everybody.
Yeah.
Coming up here on the Sports Lounge, we'll look at the NFL, the people that get paid legally, coming up here on the Sports Lounge. Welcome back to the Sports Lounge. Now we move on to the National Football League. The Ravens, I consider that to be the biggest surprise. 35-7.
You do.
I do.
For a team.
I would say the Bills were the biggest surprise. 41-7 in a game that I thought would be decided by maybe a field goal at most. I don't know. I mean,
I think of a team that exceeded my expectations. It seems weird to pick a team who lost, so I don't think I'm going to do that. But you know what? I think I will corroborate Travis's pick of the Ravens. Just not that they won, just the way that they just kind of manipulated the Steelers into basically just doing a completely uncharacteristic performance.
Here's the ball.
Basically, yeah. And Roethlisberger might have been the worst game of his professional career up to this point. I mean, the Steelers looked bad, and I think a lot of that had to do with what the Ravens are doing. I'll go with the Ravens for sort of a prime performer of Week 1.
And they had a history of close games between these two teams. You expected a 17-14, but this was nowhere near that.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens, I would say, didn't do anything differently on offense.
No.
They just had the takeaways that made the difference in the ball game. And what was it, 34-7 was the final? 35-7. I mean, that's pounding the Steelers. And those teams are rivals. If there are rivals in the NFL,
they know each other. There are no surprises.
Teams meeting almost 3 times a year now, and I mean, for the Ravens, just pound the Steelers like that, when a lot of people have the Steelers pegged to go pretty far, that was pretty surprising, no doubt.
Well, I mean, 7 turnovers, that's just obscene. You can't, if you force 7 turnovers and you only win by like less than 14 points, you lost, as far as I'm concerned. So for the Ravens to get that many takeaways and then on top of it win by 4 touchdowns, that's a pretty pretty stellar performance.
Salty.
But what about the phrase "a win's a win"?
Shut up.
A loss is a loss,
That's true.
That's
except when it's a close loss, and it's
Then it might be a win.
Still a loss.
or if you lose by 50.
We'll get into
worse
that
than a
later.
loss?
We'll get into that later.
Is it worse to lose by 50 or 53?
It depends on if you're getting $400,000.
It depends if the line's
Depends on the
51.
money.
If the line's 51, then there's some.
Yeah, it depends on the Vegas line.
Yes. NBC, they kind of got lucky. A couple good games that they had. Jets, Cowboys on Sunday night. Tony Romo does what he does. Exciting game all around. A great finish, a great comeback by the Jets. Again, is this a collapse for Dallas or a comeback for the Jets?
I think this is Tony Romo. I think it's fine. You can finally
This is the
say
Cowboys.
this is the Cowboys.
Because that block punt, how do you let that block punt happen?
Yeah.
Why exactly do you have 2 guys on one side of the line and 5 guys on the other, and
Yeah.
here come the Jets, and the up back's pretty much touching the back of the lineman? Who's, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's
no,
bad.
No, you're right, and this is just something that the Cowboys do. Romo's going to throw a pick in a big spot like he has historically done before.
He's going to fumble the ball by the goal line.
Yeah,
And-
and at times they're going to look really good, but
Which they did for 3 quarters.
Yeah, and they do enough to just lose those games where they have the talent, the coaching, or I should even say coaching, but they have the ability to win the game, and they were in position to win the game, and they didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't get over the fact that they had a chance to be up 21 with about 8-9 minutes
Yeah.
left, and fumble by the goal line. Jets march it down.
Yeah.
Block punt. Couple interceptions you trade, and all of a sudden, Jets are able to get the field goal and win. Yeah, definitely a Cowboy collapse.
I would say so.
The stat was that they had never lost a game in the history of their franchise in which they were up 14 in the 4th quarter. And they ended up doing that here against the Jets.
If they were America's team, they wouldn't have blown that game.
If they were not America's team. But
If they were America's team,
they
they
were.
wouldn't have
If
blown
they
it.
truly were America's team.
But they're not.
the Jets must have been America's team.
Must
then.
have been.
Red, white, and blue.
I was pulling
and
for
green.
them.
Obviously by the color of your shirt.
Hi-oh.
Go Jets.
It's more of a lime green.
Yeah,
than
but you know what? I wore it anyway.
It's more of an Oregon green. The opener on Thursday night, the Packers and the Saints had a dandy of a game. The Packers came out firing on all cylinders, 21 points in that first quarter. Saints come back, another exciting finish to that game. What does this say about both teams? Is this the NFC Championship everybody's pegging it to be?
I don't think so. I don't think New Orleans is as good as people think, and I think you can also conversely look at both defenses and say, what's going on in your secondaries, fellas? To have Breeze throw for 420, and Rodgers basically looked like he was just playing some 2-hand touch football with some 8th graders. So you can't just say, put those in the title game right now, because injuries are going to happen. That's shockingly premature to just say, no, that's it. That's going to be Saints-Packers title game. I think it says something for the state of the NFL, too, that, this is so clearly a passing league now. It's so clearly a passing league. You had so many guys throw for more than 300 yards yesterday, which, believe it or not, isn't an easy thing to do. And
Tell Donovan McNabb that. Come on.
34 yards?
yeah. But it's clearly moving into a state where you have to pass the ball.
Is it sissy foo-foo cake boy football or not?
What do you think,
I have
Marcus?
nothing to say about sissy, whatever that was.
Charlie, that's an inside.
He would.
Inside deal.
How many 100-yard rushers were there yesterday?
I think there were five or six.
McCoy had one. Peterson's 2 yards short.
2 yards short. In 09, the Saints defense got all those takeaways. Last year, Packers defense pretty good at the takeaways as well. And I think it was kind of there weren't many takeaways to be had. I think 1 turnover in that game. No turnovers?
Neither quarterback had an interception.
Yeah.
And there was one fumble early in the game with the Saints.
Yep, so
Packers
one
got.
turnover.
And that happened in the first quarter.
And that speaks to the ability of those 2 quarterbacks, obviously really good, to not throw any interceptions. You talked about Rodgers, who lit it up in the first half, and then, still added on to those numbers, but it didn't seem like it was effortless for him. And just so easy. You weren't even noticing that he was getting those yards, I don't think, at least.
No, yeah, you didn't notice until the end of the game. It's like, oh,
he's
24-28 for 3 1/4.
Right.
And three touchdowns. I don't know what his stat line was, but
Something
again,
like that.
something like that. Yeah, just effortless, really free and easy.
Cam Newton had an outstanding first game, something I don't think anybody expected.
Yeah, and that's my most surprising thing about the entire weekend, and not even factoring in which teams look good, which teams look bad, is Cam Newton. Coming into week 1, preseason, 40% completion percentage. He threw some picks, and then he walks into Arizona, and he looks like a superstar. That was incredibly surprising. Steve Smith looked like Steve Smith of old. Just a rack of yards. I don't know what it says. How bad is Arizona's defense? That remains to be seen. But for 1 week, Cam Newton looked like a Pro Bowler. It was incredible to see.
Carolina gets Green Bay next week, so we'll see at Carolina.
You made the comment about Steve Smith. I thought Fred Smoot was covering him.
Ooh.
That's how easy it was. Then just swimming in the end zone when he got there, too.
Yeah.
3/4 of the earth is covered by water.
That's what they say.
The other quarter is covered by Smoot.
Yeah.
Facts are facts.
Cam Newton looked really good. What do you take away from week 1 against the Cardinals? I don't know, but he did put up 400
because their
yards.
running game, non-existent.
The Panthers.
D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart.
2 good running backs. I don't know.
And this was not a game where they were down the whole time, where they abandoned the run.
No,
they just could not run.
Isn't it an emphasis of the Panthers to run the football with those two?
That's what their deal is, yeah.
And Cam Newton goes for 400.
Yeah. Well, and he can tuck the ball under his bicep and run with it too. He's got that capability. Going back to Smoot, he can cover part of the ocean too, though.
I think it's there's mountains in the ocean.
Yeah.
And he's part of that situation.
So he covers more than just land. Don't sell him short.
Well, he did cover Lake Minnetonka.
He did. He covered it in something else, but not himself. Let's compare we talked about the NFL and college now. Let's compare the two. NFL's number 1, obviously, and we have a guy that's not on the set. I would take college over the NFL, I think. But how do you compare the two as far as excitement week in and week out? Because it seems to me that college these past 2 weeks have been very, very good without too many marquee matchups.
No, NFL.
NFL all the way?
The greater efficiency the NFL plays with, the skill of quarterbacks, their ability to read defenses, their ability to make progressions. I even get enjoyment seeing even punters, their ability to pin it deep, and it looks like they can do it really pretty easily. NFL, I'm going to take individual performance over more of a atmospheric type of this program versus this program type stuff that you get in college football, which is fine, but I'm going to take the NFL virtually every single week.
Everything you hate about the NFL, I love about college football.
You like the punting.
I like poor punting.
You like those 23-yard nets punts?
No, 23-yard shanks. Just right out. Don't worry about the net.
All right.
And then, I do like the pride, the tradition that comes with college football.
Not the actual pride band, but the.
I'm not going to go there. And I think it won't. I think it warrants itself to more drama a little bit, even though the teams are more evenly matched in the NFL, and you might get a 56-3 in college football. I like the option. I like the different facets that come with the college game. I prefer it. But don't get me wrong, when it comes Sunday, I will watch the NFL. I'll cheer. I love it. But I like Saturdays a little bit more.
Do you physically cheer?
For the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
If something really great happens, yeah, I'll cheer.
Even if nobody's around, I'll get up and yell.
Holy
hell, look at that.
Like at 11:59 p.m., you just get up from the couch. And
something's got to happen first.
The NFL's not on at 11:59.
What?
If you're on the West Coast.
Tonight it will be. Monday Night Football.
AM or
PM? You guys, 11:59 a.m. on Sundays. Why was
that
that?
Alarm goes off.
Why was that so hard to come?
That alarm goes off.
Started yet at 11:59.
They're about to start.
Okay, well then
you are excited for them about to start.
When I see Cletus, the
Slackshot Yokel?
The Fox robot, I am not cheering. But after that,
Fox robot.
after that, I will cheer. I will cheer.
All right.
Coming up here on the Sports Lounge, we're going to get into some of the more goofier things of the weekend, as if we haven't already, coming up here on the Sports Lounge. Back here on the Sports Lounge, it's time to talk the turkey and cut it up. SDSU 56-3 loss to Illinois. That's all that needs to be said.
Illinois played well, and SSU didn't.
Agreed?
Yeah, I mean,
Give us some numbers.
You want the numbers. I don't usually like to bring them. I barely prepare for this show. I don't know if the viewers knew that, but I barely do.
I feel like it's imperative for you to bring up the numbers right now. And
Illinois,
get her out.
First downs, 27. SDSU had 6. SDSU doesn't get their first down until little after, until it was 28-0 in the game. Rushing yards, Illinois 364. SDSU 25 yards on 24 carries.
Well, it's because they were passing it. That's why.
Because they had 70 yards passing? Sumner was 34.
Total offense, they had 96. So take 96 from 25, or 25 from 96, and there you go. Illinois 519. It's the largest margin of victory Illinois has had since like 1930 some. 1940.
When they played the Teachers College of Illinois.
They did, and now Illinois State actually.
Okay.
So.
Oh wow.
And Illinois on third
Well,
downs.
that's serious. I wasn't being serious.
Illinois on third downs 9 of 11. SDSU 2 for 12 on third downs. Don't ask me when they converted their first third down, but it had to have been decently late in the game.
You know, you rattle off all those numbers, and I only hear one thing. Ka-ching.
400,000 is the number? We're thinking
So.
ballpark?
Let's hope they cashed a check before Illinois said, let's bring that number down a little bit. How about $200,000 or $75?
They'll put that in the general fund, but if you're in charge, how do you spend this?
I would probably improve the technical equipment in this room, maybe the studio.
A new desk?
Yeah, maybe a new desk.
Dye my beard blonde.
Dye your beard blonde. No, I'd put some of that money into Irv Heather Field over there and make it look like a college baseball.
Because I think $400,000 could buy you a press box and a grandstand.
Okay. Your words, not mine.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I said it. If Travis said it, the athletic department wouldn't be too happy, but Drew and I co-sign on that statement.
Well, the money probably can't be doled out this way, but how about we give those professors a raise? Small raise.
Small raise. They haven't gotten a raise in a while.
Couple grand.
They have not.
Yeah.
I think they should put another addition on the union because there's only been 5 in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So.
Keep that trend going. 6 for 6, 7 for 7. We need more. We need more sports grills.
Aramark needs money,
Hey.
and they need us to build more stuff on campus for food.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, after getting back to the game, after the Shieldhouse bootleg 4-yard touchdown run to make it 28-0, and like 4 guys are crashing into the line, and Shieldhouse.
Zach Bowers.
Shieldhouse is doing the toe drag to the goal line. I mean, and it was probably over before then too. On the Trujan Henry interception return.
That's when I thought it was deal done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He scored 2 touchdowns in 10 seconds. Make it 7-0 to 21-0.
Even then, I didn't think 56-3 by the end of the game. That was a thorough manhandling from kickoff to the final whistle.
And they put in Austin Sumner in there for the final series. He goes 3 for 4, 34 yards. Looks good against the scrubs and the walk-ons from Illinois. While Senior O'Brien goes 8 for 18 for 34 yards, or 37 yards, and a pick, or a few. Does this stir up the pot here at all?
Illinois is pretty good. I
don't know how you can fault O'Brien here. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean that's an 11-man effort to not play well. I mean, it's not just on O'Brien's shoulders, but
because it's his fault they gave up 56 and tackled like they were amputees out in the field.
A bit, yeah.
If this is the line, how far did I cross that on that statement?
You're over here.
Okay.
Well,
we'll find out.
It did not look good at all.
I think even though Sumner came in, I don't think this opens up the quarterback can of worms. I think O'Brien's your guy. Now, if he plays
Mark Richt of quarterbacks.
if he plays poorly against FCS opponents, sure, we can talk about it. But you can't convince me that Austin Sumner provides a better opportunity right now than Thomas O'Brien does, because we don't know. I mean, until we see Austin Sumner against number one's FCS opponents, then we can evaluate.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna sit here and infer so many things about a game that the Jacks were basically bound to lose. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say quarterback changes, Meadows moving to the play calling, somebody else new. I'm not gonna throw down the gauntlet and say there needs to be some steep changes here. The Jacks were by all means going to lose that game. The way they did is bad. Yeah, that's not a way you want to lose any football game against any opponent. But I won't sit here and say, the Jacks are a terrible football team. They're 1-1. They have an excellent chance to get out of this end of the month at 2-2 or 3-1, which puts you in position to win some important games down the stretch at Coughlin Stadium in conference. So, I'm not going to be an alarmist on this one. I'm not going to be throwing up the white flags if you're an SSU fan.
And stuff like this happens all the time to FCS teams. Teams get pounded when they play FBS teams. It's nothing new, and SDSU got away with, not exactly got away with, but they played 3 really good FBS teams and played well.
Yeah, well, and
we got spoiled. We got spoiled.
Apparently by Minnesota and Nebraska and then the whole pick.
Which has
clearly.
no bearing on Illinois.
Yeah.
Because it's different teams.
They played well enough against Iowa State to somewhat stay in that game. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, this.
And then Minnesota and Nebraska, they played well against those teams to the point that it wasn't a blowout.
Yeah.
Minnesota, they had a decent chance winning that, and Nebraska, they were 14 points behind all night.
Top 10 team.
To a top 10 team, which is pretty good.
And we're sitting here and we're laughing, and maybe that's what you got to do, really. I mean, look at it that way. The gallows humor sort of thing is just laugh it off, move on. Maybe that's what you got to do if you're the Jacks this week. Is just shrug and say that Shieldhouse dude maybe looked like a fool, but it's done. Time to think about Cal Poly.
Head to the wineries out west this weekend.
Well, you think visit a vineyard or two, or?
They might. Probably not the players, but the big money guys.
The big wigs.
The big money guys. Minnesota Vikings, if you saw the game, you saw Percy Harvin lead off the game with a 103-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. And as you can see, somebody got
what
a little...
happened after that?
They lost 24-17, but somebody got a little excited. I don't know if he's a Viking fan or a Charger fan.
Not sure it matters.
This is early in the game. As you can see, 14:45 into the first quarter. Is this acceptable whatsoever?
I heard from a man of wisdom that you ain't cool unless you pee your pants. So
That's
no problem as far as I'm concerned.
My completely unintelligent opinion on this is that he was in the...
You can have an intelligent opinion on this?
Jeez. Ouch. He gets into the tailgating lot 8 hours early. He's enjoying some beverages and
he wanted
to watch Percy Harvin.
Wanted to wait until halftime maybe, but really, strategy-wise, you would want to go like right after kickoff,
You
right?
definitely
Yeah,
would.
because everybody's in their seats for kickoff.
Right.
Go then. Lines ain't going to be long, and you're not going to be in the
everybody's in their seats for kickoff.
moist situation that you find yourself in. So, poor strategy by that guy. Poor.
Think that over next time. The Minnesota Twins having a fantastic season. They dressed the rookies up this year, as they always do for a road trip, and as you can see, the ethnically appropriate Nishioka in the oversized sumo costume.
I can't name all those guys. How many rookies?
Dinkelman.
And none of them are good.
No.
I mean, I like Revere. Who else? Who's good? Who's good in this group of rookies
like
dressed
Revere's
up as fools?
How about that arm? It's a cannon.
If he had an arm, I would form an opinion on it.
You would.
He does.
He has one?
Yeah.
Two of them?
Physically attached, both of them.
He's got both of them?
To his body.
Weird.
He throws
use
about
that.
as well as Delman Young runs.
Here's the thinking on that. Why would you do that? Why would you do the rookie dress up when you're 30 games below 500?
The way they're dressed up is probably less embarrassing than when they're on the field.
Whoever had to dress up in Gumby can actually hide his face, so good for him.
That's true. That's true.
Drew didn't know who Gumby was.
Who was in the Gumby
physical
costume?
guy.
Full disclaimer, viewers, I know who Gumby is.
No, you don't.
You brought this one up, the Louisville game.
Yeah. I think this is Louisville. I don't know.
It was
a college
Louisville.
football game this
The double
Saturday.
salute.
It was number 11 put up made with the hands.
Oh, right. Yeah, but he didn't use his index finger.
He did not. He did not. He used the middle digit.
And we're showing that now, so
Wow.
you can see that.
Oh, my. We are in trouble.
Yes, we are.
I think this might be the last show.
And if it's not, we'll be back with a new episode on
great.
Thursday.
That'd be
Now
great.
we're on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You can see this episode now at Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and on YouTube. Search the Sports Lounge or any of these names for their inappropriateness in other areas, which remains to be seen.
That was horrendously vague, but
It was. On Thursday, a new show. We'll be back. We'll preview college football this week. SDSU goes to California to face Cal Poly, and then we'll also talk about the National Football League.
Teachers
and
College
Week 2.
Institute plays.
And we'll see if
Illinois?
USC can screw
has-
everybody over and go -9 and 8.5 by a late touchdown that shouldn't count. You've been watching a very entertaining edition of the Sports Lounge.
Trying to get our two boys ready to carry them to golf tournament before practice, right? 12 cats live across the road. Our door's open. Screen's broke. We need to get a new screen door, but the screen's broke, so you can come in through the screen, but you can't get back out of it. I turn and look, there's a little kitty cat in our kitchen. So I said, what are you doing in here, little kitty cat? By that time, the cat turns, tries to get back out. That screen won't go that way. Cat starts going, meow, all crazy. And I told our players, we need more dogs. Bo's barking in the back. I have to go shut Bo up. Mel's like, what's going on? I said, there's a cat in the house. Cat in the house? I said, yeah, there's a cat in the house. So I told our players, I tried to let it out the front door. Meow, meow, the cat's still going crazy in there. And I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here. Meow, looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.